Welcome to the Path Forward. This is Cassandra Williamson. By now, you're noticing the El Salvador flag on the image in the background here. And I just want to ask a question for all of our congressional Democrats out there. Is that the hill you really want to die on? I don't think so. So let me just put my face back up here again, and we'll go from there. So I brought that up because there's just too much going on in the Democratic Party that is self-inflicted wounds and destruction. Okay. So what's happening right now? Well, they're trying to plant this big flag on the hill down in El Salvador with Abrego Garcia. And he's not worth the trouble. So I posted something over on X when I was talking with, actually leaving messages with the Five and the Will Kane Show and different ones earlier today. Well, I listed a few things that I said that Democrats need to do, need to stop. Okay. That's my message to the Democrats, congressional Democrats. Stop already. You're inflicting greater harm. And now Garcia is not worth it. Stop. And also stop with the impeachment crap. Okay. Nobody wants to hear that. It doesn't matter if you think it will work or if in 2 years or whatever. This is not the time nor the place to be doing it. Stop already. All you're doing is just getting half the country, more than half of the country, really, to look at you and go, oh, are you crazy? Here we're doing it again to ourselves. Self-inflicted wounds and destruction at the hands of congressional Democrats who think that, they got to plant their flag on something. Well, the person who did that, the congressperson who did it, you're likely to just die on that hill. All right. So stop already. It's not going to work. Next thing is, well, I already talked about Garcia. That was another other thing. Stop. It's not worth dying for. You don't want to plant your flag on that hill, folks. It's just, that flag is not worth it. And Garcia is an illegal alien who was living in this country and now resides in his own home country now. And yeah, due process should have taken place prior to this, but he's there and it's not worth a big fuss already. Leave him down there. As a matter of fact, help Trump get the rest of them out of the country who are illegal and operating within our country, particularly if they're part of a terrorist organization like, MS-13 or Trinity Aragua. Any of those organizations or anyone who's coming here to do harm to the United States, regardless of where they may have originated from, they're here illegally. Get them out. The other thing is stop defending. Let me look over here on my little post I put on X. Okay, stop opposing everything that Trump is doing. In your heart, without me having to point it out to you, that there are some things that Trump's doing that you wish you had done. If you're being honest with yourself, you know that, right? You really know that already? Yeah, you do. I hope. He sealed the border and he did it fast. The Biden administration, bless their heart, they thought they were doing all the right thing. And they thought they were following the process, going through the correct steps along the way. And 4 years later, it was worse than when they had started. More had come across that border than, oh my gosh, in a long time. And then when President Trump gets into office, it just within 100 days, the flow of migrants across that border has dropped down to a trickle. Okay. So I'm fine with that. Help him build that wall down there so we can get control of this border. We know that there are bad actors in this world who will do everything in their power to come across that border and enter the United States to do us harm. There are some who have put out hits on many of our leaders in this country. Now, that leaves wide open the northern border with Canada. Well, maybe Canada ought to become a state so that we can just secure the harbors all around northern half of the northern hemisphere. Because that's another long border across through there, and all they have to do is get into Canada. But obviously, Canada's pretty good about controlling who comes in sometimes. Not always. Not always. Neither are we. But to get into Canada, you have to go by ship or plane. You can't come across the southern border of Canada to get into Canada. Well, you can. I know it's being done. People are doing it. But the message here is stop already with being an obstructionist and get out there and help get these things done, and just stop it already. My goodness, come on. You know there are things that are working well with what President Trump has done, and he has done it quickly. And he has moved fast and broke a lot of things, some of which needed to be broken, but there is a process that should have been followed, a legal process in many cases. But if he had done that, it'd be 4 years later and nothing would have been accomplished. So actually, I applaud what has happened right now with what President Trump is doing at the border, what President Trump has been doing with illegal immigrants entering into our country. I applaud those things. Now, here's where he and I will absolutely have complete disagreement. You don't go into our military academies, you don't go into these universities and demand that they do certain things when they need to have intellectual freedom. They need to have viewpoint diversity across all of those things in their libraries, because leadership demands that people read broadly, especially of things they disagree with. That's the whole point of an education, is it not? Even in the college level, in the university level, people need to be able to learn how to think critically. You don't learn that in high school. High school is designed to just kind of get you a base of information that's really broad and kind of see what you might be interested in. And you go into college and you become more of a specialist, try to learn something else, whether that it could be philosophy, it could be European literature, or I don't know, Greco-Roman wrestling techniques, whatever you want to study. That's fine. You need to have that ability to do that. And now for the Republicans to actually say that we don't want people to have diverse views, well, I don't think they're actually saying that. Let me back up and rephrase that slightly. Diversity is inescapable. All you have to do is look down your street where you live, and not a single person looks like you, do they? They may be all one color, but they don't all look like you. They're not duplicates and copies of you. They have diverse views. They have different opinions. They have different children, or if they've got children, they have different family situations, and they love different people than you, thank God. So you've got all this stuff going on. And it's all diverse. And then you bring in racial differences and ethnic differences and financial and educational differences and all these kind of things. Diversity is inescapable, whether it's sexual differences or genetic sex differences, or whether it's gender and gender differences. Diversity is everywhere. And you're not going to move the nation forward if you aren't working towards trying to talk to these people, listen to them and hear them. And that's where the Republicans have shut down the conversation in a lot of areas. Now, Democrats have done this too, to be clear. Right now, you've got silos within the Democratic Party who are saying this is the only way. So you got James Carville, whatever his name is, James Carville down there out of Louisiana going, Mr. Hogg, you don't need to be doing this. You got to follow the line. You can't go after Democrats. They're already there. You don't need to be primarying all of the incumbents and everything like that. Well, Hogg's right. David Hogg is right. The party has become too entrenched on that side and think that they have a right to their position where they are. They don't. They don't. If either party is blocking other opinions and views, then they are in the wrong and doing something that will be detrimental to themselves, their party, and the country. That's just the way it is. So don't be afraid of differing views. That's a challenge on with every person in the country. I can go out the door, right down the street, and find somebody who disagrees with the fact that I am here, who actually thinks that I don't deserve to be here, who think that I don't have a right to live openly here, even. But we can have a conversation about it. They're not going to do anything stupid. People around here where I am in Eastern Kentucky, they generally are very good people. Most are. I mean, I haven't met a single one in the time. I mean, I grew up here and I've been back here now over a year and a half helping family and haven't encountered any of these problems everybody's been talking about. It's just not there. Now, I will say that with the stuff that's happened within the first 100 days, for instance, the defining men and women thing that Trump did, that was just unscientific and stupid and ignorant and crazy as can be. It is that stable genius came out on that one. Yep, that stable genius came out with that. Let me see if I can get rid of that flag over there. Because I don't want to die on that hill in El Salvador, do you? That's not worth it. So whenever President Trump did that and then started enforcing that across the whole of the federal enterprise, well, that causes problems with people who I know and care about too. Trans people particularly are running into trouble with that, especially as getting your real ID now is becoming more and more crucial, even though there's been a hold placed on the implementation of it. I know people, and I've read about people, and probably you have too. Aaron Reed of Aaron in the Morning actually published something, and I think it was Steve Baum who did on their behalf, but it was about a transgender woman from out in Arkansas who had run into some difficulties flying recently, all because there was an X on her real ID, on her ID. She actually had to take out a passport which had the wrong gender marker listed on it, previous one that should not be used anywhere. And they let her go through then, barely. Okay, so you're going to run into some of these issues around the country. So what are you going to have to do about all this? Well, let me back up before I jump into all that, because I actually wanted to say one more thing about something to stop and the things that we support. One of them is that I support. We don't need to be opposing Trump on these global tariffs and the fees that have been improperly posted against us and foisted against us over the past 70 years. Yeah, we agreed to a lot of that stuff over those years, but that was when we were more interested, back in the Cold War era, when we were more interested in maintaining a global structure in opposition to communism coming out of Russia and China. So back then there was a lot of fear of those two. So we had a really strong global presence, and it was important to do so. So at that point in time, we did a lot of things, a lot of compromises that allowed other countries to have fees and such things applied to us, and tariffs applied to products that we supplied to them, and things like that we provided to them, in order to help them gain their economic footing. That's what that was all about. Those days are over. It's been going on long enough. And those countries, like I told somebody the other day, if we haven't got it already figured out, then if they haven't got it figured out, well, they've had plenty of time. 70 years is a long time. It's like the Real ID thing. The Real ID thing, which is supposed to go into effect on the 7th of May. And somebody mentioned on one of the comment sections I was talking to out of Lexington, Kentucky, not long ago, and they were saying, we can't get it. There's so many things we have to do. I mean, we feel like we're being rushed and pushed through all of this. And my reply in the comment section was, we've been thinking about this and telling people about this since 2005. You've had 20 years. I don't want to hear it. That is too challenging now for somebody to go do it. It could have been done a long time ago. All right. So what's the path forward out of all of this stuff? One, be prepared. Know that there are risks out there. Go get things done that you need to get done. For instance, with your IDs, identifications, whatever. Get that stuff done now so that this presidency will end at some point in time, and maybe you can get back to some sanity then. So yeah, be prepared for that. Be prepared for the fact that the reports that's coming out of HHS, the new one on gender dysphoria for adolescents and children. Well, it's going to be applied to adults too. And if you don't think that's the case, well, you're really naive. It will be applied to adults. They're going to use it as an issue to move forward with all kinds of stuff, and it will happen sooner than you think. It's going to be used in conjunction with the horrible, unscientific Cass review, which came out of the UK. The HHS review based a lot of its work on the Cass review, which is like, the blind leading the blind. So get ready, though, because they want to get us out of the public sphere altogether. Now, if you're some of these people going around here, you're in drag sometimes and you go read stories to kids at libraries or schools or whatever, I hope you have stopped. I hope you are standing firm on not doing it, because it causes more harm than good, not just to who we are as trans people, but also to very likely the kids themselves, even though most kids can just get right through anything and it doesn't bother them. And that's just the way it is. Okay. Kids are very resilient, but then so are you. If you're a veteran who happens to be trans like me, well, we were taught how to push through and survive and kick butt along the way to do it. Okay, so use what you know, what you have been trained in, not to harm anyone, but to protect yourself and your loved ones. Be prepared. Old Scout motto, be prepared. Get out there and do things in preparation for that. I've got one friend who stocks up on rice and stuff like that, and food items and paper products and stuff. Don't rush the stores, but just go get stuff so that you're prepared. And I'm not talking about being a prepper or anything like that, or be a conspiracy theorist or anything at all like that. But what I am telling you to do is be prepared. Life will not be as easy it is now. And you think the day is rough, but as easy it is now than like it will be in 2 months or 3 months or a year. They're going to use all this stuff against the entire trans population, stopping everything that they possibly can. So take care of yourself. Be strong. And if you don't need to be taking any particular medicines, then don't. If you can find a way around it, don't. Because at some point, HHS is going to go after all, and they already are. Let me just say it this way. They already are. They're going after the pharmacies that produce all the chemicals and the hormones and stuff that everybody uses in this community, or most people use in the community, unless they've come really far along and are later in life. But they're going after all of those. After all of it, folks. They won't stop at the kids. It'll go after you too, and everything that you have and everything that you need. So build up your strength and resilience now and be ready, because you know what the future holds here. How do you know that? Well, we know for a fact that the stuff that's happened over the past 100 days in the Trump administration, these are things they have been dreaming of doing for 70 years, since the lavender scare of the 50s. They're going after all of it. They don't, and they also do not care if you're a scientist or a doctor, or if you have any kind of professional skill. That they just consider everybody over here in this community in need of, they have a mental illness, even though psychologists worldwide now know that is not the case, just like they know that being gay is not a psychological illness too, okay? Gay or lesbian, they know that. They actually changed that in 1973. And so they're changing the stuff with the transgender people as well, that it's not a mental issue, but nonetheless, lots of people in this community do need to talk to psychologists, because not so much of the stress that we have from within ourselves, but because there's so much pressure from the outside to conform to the binary in the society in which we are, in which we live. Now, there's something to be said for that, because we do live in a majority binary society. It's been that way from, since we came out of the trees of the savannas of Africa. Probably even before that. Okay. 99.5% of every single person living now and having lived in the past live in a binary world. And who do we think we are to tell someone else that you must live as we want, or we're going to take you to court, or we're getting mad, or we're going to throw a temper tantrum, or we're going to reach across the counter at Walmart and say, can't you see that my name is such and such, and you ought to be calling me this, and ma'am that, and she that, and my God. And you look like a troglodyte, right? For me, I know that my voice is also out there. Really, it doesn't match by anything, any stretch of imagination. Otherwise, I can pass pretty easily. But I'm not going to change my voice either, because I don't want to go through the surgery to do it. It's not advanced enough yet for me to take that risk. And I could go through voice therapy, and you can get it to change quite a bit. And one doctor down at the University of Alabama, where I live down there. I've got kids who work there. Not kids, young adults who work there. Doctor told me, hey, we can help you get your voice to change. They did a little voice analysis of my voice, and they said, well, they came back, and they didn't know anything of where I was from. They came back and said, it sounds to us, after doing this voice analysis, computer aided voice analysis, that you're from probably Eastern Kentucky, that you were acclimated there and grew up there. And I said, yeah. Yeah, I was. I grew up here. I went to school here. I graduated high school here. Okay. Yeah. And then they said the strangest thing. They said, and we can make you, with the proper training, we know now how we can shape your voice to sound like a girl from Eastern Kentucky. It's tempting, but I said, look, I love my sisters. I love my family back there in Eastern Kentucky. I love my sisters and my nieces and all of those people here in the hills and the hollers, but I don't want to sound like them. They thought that was funny, and so did I. So I've been using it ever since. I've been using it going, I get a phone call and somebody will say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And they'll say, well, what's your name? And I'll say, Cassandra. And they'll go, yes, sir, yes, sir. And I'll say, yeah, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I mean, if they bring it up and they're kind of hesitant, they kind of question what I'm saying or whatever, as if I'm not that person. And I'll go, look, I said, I understand the quandary you're facing right now. It's because my voice doesn't sound like what you think I should sound like. So what I tell people is, and that's what I tell people on the phone a lot, is that, I've got that old Marine command voice. And I'm sticking with it. And then I start laughing, and they laugh, and they say, well, I wish everybody else would be able to talk like that about it and not be so offended every time we did something. I said, look, there's too many people who are throwing eggshells in front of themselves and stepping on them. We don't need to be doing that anymore, do we? No. If you're running around reading drag queen stuff to kids, you don't need to do that anymore. It's stupid. All right. If you're going into the women's bathroom with a full-on beard and got your junk and all that kind of crap, you ought to be hauled off to jail. And if you're going into locker rooms where these girls are and things like that, and you've still got that junk and you demand to be able to change clothes in there with them because you think you are a woman when in fact genetically you are not, and you still got all that stuff that proves it, you need to be in jail. It's that simple. I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to defend you at all. I think that's the height of stupidity and arrogance. Okay. It's that simple from me. And as like Harold Ford said on the 5 today when he was talking, he said, I call balls and strikes. Well, and he does a pretty good job of that too. He's the Democrat on there along with Jessica Tarlov. And that's what I do. And I had a friend out in the Midwest who told me the same thing. That's what they do. They call balls and strikes. I've got a friend up in New York, conservative trans woman, who says she calls balls and strikes. That's a good way to approach life. And with that, Have a great weekend. See you Monday, and I hope you have a really enjoyable day. I may go out over the weekend and do some recording of dirt days. Williamson, West Virginia, they're born and named for my great-grandchildren. No, it's having this big event for ATV riders and dirt track riders, stuff like that, that are traveling all these Hatfield-McCoy trails around here. Well, they're having dirt days there. It's a big event. Started today and goes through tomorrow. Anyway,